Good evening. I'm Isaac Ben Ezra, host, co-producer of Conversations. On April 3rd, 2012, the community will come together in a primary election, and we have four candidates for 2 seats on school committee. And one of those 4 candidates is up for re-election, and his name is Irv Rhodes, and let me welcome him. Welcome, Irv.
Thank you.
Irv is presently the president of the Amherst board, I believe, and has served for how many years?
This is the third.
This is the 3rd year. I'm going to start out by not assuming that everybody knows Irv, because this is a community with people moving in all the time. So for the first few minutes, I'm going to treat him as somebody who's new to the community. Why don't you introduce yourself to the community?
All right. I'm Irv Rhodes. I live in South Amherst. I've been here for about 30 years. I've been on the school committee for 3 years, 1 year as vice chair and 2 years as chair. I'm presently chair. I am president of the Amherst Rotary Club here in Amherst. During the past several years of my life, in terms of my experience, I've been a 3rd grade teacher, a 4th grade teacher, and a 5th grade teacher, and a 6th grade teacher. I also taught a combination of all of those. I've also been a middle school librarian. I've been a assistant professor for teacher education, and I am presently a co-owner of an internet business that's based in Amherst and Las Vegas, Nevada.
What kind of business is that, Irv?
It's an online business, and it deals with helping nonprofits utilize the benefits of the online marketplace. We set up the marketplace. We contract with approximately 1,000 retailers from Walmart to Target, etc. And every time a nonprofit member shops there, a percentage of that sale goes back to the nonprofit.
Sounds like it's helping nonprofits.
Yes.
That seems to be the whole idea of the thing.
Correct.
Great. And how long have you been doing that?
For the last 8 years.
Okay. Tell us about where you were educated and what brought you to Amherst 30 years ago.
Yeah, I was educated at Southern Illinois University. I went there on a football scholarship and played 4 years there, came out with my bachelor's degree, and then the following year came out with my master's degree. And then I started my career. And when I left St. Louis, I came to Fairleigh-Dickinson University, where I was assistant professor in the Center for Human Development. And I looked around for a place to finish my doctorate, and it was UMass. So I came up here at UMass to finish my doctorate, and after I finished it, I stayed here.
And you're raising a family?
Raised a family, and they're all grown children now. No
but
more
they
tuition.
Came out of the school district?
Yes, I did. All of my kids came out.
Did you find that to be a great experience?
Yes. In fact, it's one of those experiences where I could compare the kind of education my children had versus the kind of education our children are getting at this point in time, and the differences between the two. Because there's a lot of years there, the population is different. We can get into that later.
Well, let's get into it right now. Tell us about that. Is that all positive, or are there some negatives?
Well, it's all positive. It's just the factual base. The base of our town demographics has changed tremendously, and especially when you look at the demographics in terms of the school population. The school population now is elementary school population is around 37.8 to 38% on free and reduced lunch. That's elementary school. About 25% at the middle school and high school. On free and reduced lunch. And then you look at our minority population, and that has increased substantially over the years. So at the elementary level, you're talking 25 to 35% minority, and that's all minorities, including in terms of people, students of color. So that includes not only Hispanics, African Americans, Hawaiians, etc. But that
Cambodians,
Cambodia,
Vietnamese.
yes. So when you look at all of that, you're looking at up to 40% of our student population at the elementary level being minority or people of color. That was not so when my kids were going through here, through the elementary schools. It's a big change. That demographic, as it moves through the system, and what we see coming forward is the same demographic with a couple percentage points more in the direction of increased minority representation in the school population and increase in free and reduced lunch in the school population. And those have some significant implications for how we go about providing for the education of our children here in Amherst.
And the recession hasn't exactly been a helpful situation.
No, it hasn't been.
So we had a significant increase in some homelessness population, student population. How do we address that?
Well, there are certain parts of the Amherst school budget where we are impacted by that particular population. For instance, if a child shows up here in Amherst but is from another district, Amherst is required to transport that child to their home district school, even though they live here because they're going.
So they're not integrated into the school?
No. In other words, we have to pay for that child to go to their home district school, transportation-wise.
But you receive no reimbursement?
We do not get reimbursed for that.
Okay, so there are some questions about that policy, which we can go into at another time.
Yes.
But that's how significant is that?
Well, it's significant in that if every dollar taken out of our schools means that we then can't have that same dollar to provide the services and programs here, and that impacts us. We can do a summer school program for $10, $15 a child. You take out $1,500, you wiped out 150 kids. So it's significant.
All right, well, let's talk about the gap and its consequences as far as education is. What do you see? What does the board see at this point in terms of goals to look forward to building towards?
Let me see if I understand you.
The question is, we have this gap. We have an economic gap. We have a racial gap. We have an ethnic gap. We got immigrant students. Education is different. There's a significant change in the population. You just made that very clear. What are we doing about that? How do we address that? How do we deal with the gap, and why is it important that we deal with it?
The gap, it's an achievement gap. And one of the sad things about this country is that if I know if I know your economic status, I can predict the achievement levels of your children. All right, and that's really sad, and that's also true here. It's true here in Massachusetts. It's true here in Amherst. If your children who are on free and reduced lunch, their achievement profile is significantly different to the negative than those who are not on free and reduced lunch. That is a critical problem. It's a problem that I've committed myself to solving, to help solving, and one of the things that I think that is really important is to look at how the schools are addressing that problem. The superintendent and the administration, the teachers have implemented a district improvement plan, which you can find on the internet. And if you go to the ARPS website, that district improvement plan is a way of looking at how we are dealing with the problem. And the focus is on instructional superiority, instructional improvement, where you bring it right down to the classroom. So when you're doing that, you're improving the instructional capability of each and every teacher, so that teacher who, can be at their highest level in terms of proficiency, in terms of dealing with students. You know, when you break down education, it all comes back down to the teacher and the student in the classroom. And the greatest way, the fastest way, and the most effective way of having an impact on student achievement is teacher quality and effectiveness. We are addressing that. So teacher quality and effectiveness is one. Secondly, we have to pay attention to the students, and one of the ways that we want to do that we have implemented last year and continuing this year is increasing our preschool population so that we can offer greater access to preschools to children who are on free and reduced lunch. All the evidence points to that early intervention is key to future success. So we're doing that. Secondly, we have to, it's actually third, we have to focus up on the children in the classroom in terms of how they are functioning in the classroom. And to that point, the school has implemented two programs. One is PBIS, which is positive behavior, and I won't go into that acronym, and RTI, which is response to intervention, which again looks at individual children and helps identify and has a database so we can track children over time. The other most important one is, which comes back to teachers, is that we've implemented this whole thing of teacher improvement, which ties into the upcoming teacher evaluation system in terms of teacher rounds where teachers and others who are involved in the instructional process are able to observe each other, talk about their practice, and this is all done to improve the practice of teaching. But this is a long way of saying that what we are doing is focusing in up on the instructional process to improve the practice of each individual teacher and also improve the performance of students.
Why is free lunch an important part of the educational system today?
All right. So I can take you literally and say free lunch.
No, I'm trying. What I'm trying to do is, I think you're making a very strong case that stratification in our society, both economic and ethnic and racial, has always been with us. It's nothing new. What is new is that it's increasing, and we're now in a great recession, and the significance of the change is becoming more and more obvious. Formerly middle-class families are becoming part of the working class or the unemployed, and so lunch, the qualifying for free lunch, is not only to give kids something to eat, but it has something. If kids are hungry, that it does impact on their ability to take advantage of the education. That's why I asked the question.
Right. It's
because I'm leading to something else. The students, the teachers in the class are not the whole way of solving the problem. You know that. And we need to, what I'm looking at is, how do we help school systems to address the total problem?
all right.
Got
So two parts to me. First part is that the demographics of Amherst are changing. They have changed. And those demographics do not necessarily mirror other parts of the country. So it's really important to understand that most people think of Amherst as being middle to upper middle class because you get all these institutions of higher learning, all these people who work at these institutions of higher learning. The salary scales are well known. University of Massachusetts, combined with Amherst College and Hampshire College, the largest employer in Hampshire County, outside of Cooley-Dixon. So Amherst, one would think, would be middle class to upper middle class. And so it comes as a shock to a lot of people to understand that we get about 3,000 folks who live in this town who are below the poverty line, or that we have 37 to 40% of our kids on free and reduced lunch who qualify by federal definition for free and reduced lunch. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that, yes, that free and reduced lunch also has a mirror to it in relationship to breakfast. Kids cannot function in a classroom very well if they are hungry. So that needs to be provided, and it is provided.
How does the federal and state government impact on school districts in regard to free lunch programs or other kinds of programs?
Well, free and reduced lunch, there is a subsidy that is given by the federal government to each school district for each student who qualifies.
Because the reason I raise this question is that the mood in Washington today is not to expand free lunch programs, and I just want to underline objectively, even though I'm biased, that kids getting a meal is instrumental to dealing with a piece of the problem, but it's not the whole problem. How about other needs that students, what do you as a school board member see the impact of the economy, and you see the change, the demographic changes that are taking place, and it seems to me that it's beyond just what the schools can do, and that's why I'm looking for how do we see the partnership between the state and federal government? Maybe that's the question.
Well, you know, state and federal government are going to be doing what they're going to do. And we really, the impact that we can have with that is in terms of how we organize ourselves with other schools and other towns to have an impact on the budgets.
Are we doing that?
Yes, I think that happens I think the towns and the schools, especially the school committees through the Massachusetts Association for School Committees, has a profound effect with state legislation as it impacts our schools. The other thing is that, you know, the federal and state programs, and especially at the state level, we have seen over the last 10 years a steady decline in terms of the amount of money the state has been providing to the towns under what is called Chapter 70. And that decline really has impacted our budgets tremendously over those 10 years. You know, one example, one of the assumptions that we were looking at in terms of building our budget this year was that we would we'd be looking at a 2.8% increase in Chapter 70 money. So our whole budget was built on that. Well, that was wiped out when the state level funded everything. So we had to change our budget, and it also caused some pain, some budgetary pain, both at the Amherst level, i.e. the elementary level, and at the region level, middle school and high school level. And that hurts.
So would you say, to summarize, it would be fair to say that the recession, the demographic changes make it more necessary now than ever that we increase the relationship between the state and federal government in terms of bringing more resources, because these are not just local problems, they're systemic problems of our economy and our system. And if we have it bad, we just need to look at Springfield and Holyoke, where the proportion of the disenfranchised is at a greater level than it is here in Amherst. You know, I can't believe it, but the time is up already.
It's already up. Well, there you go.
Anything else you want to add?
No, this has been good. I appreciate it, and I thank you for inviting me to come here.
Good luck.
Thank you.